All right, so in this video, I'm going to go over my kick group and my bass group, let you guys know which plugins and effects I use to get the sounds to sound like I wanted, and also how I have the two relating to each other. So let's just get started by playing the track from the beginning so you can hear what's going on with the kick and the bass. So you can hear that the beginning of the song is fundamentally like revolving around the kick and the bass, and the relationship that they have together is kind of an alternating sound, right? So I'm gonna solo the kick and the bass groups just so you can hear it more clearly. So to start with the kick, I actually used a kick sample from one of the D-Unity sample packs from Unity Records. I highly recommend those sample packs if you're into techno sounds and techno percussions and effects and stuff like that. It's a really, really good resource. And then I layered it with a top click that came from Kick 2 by Sonic Academy. So I'm going to solo the kick so you can get a feel for the two sounds working together. And you can see that they sound like one solid kick. And what I'm doing here is I have the sample from Unity Records here, which is a very round, low-end kick. And then I have the top click that I got from Kick 2 here. So together I have what sounds like one solid kick. It's really important to make sure that your kicks have a strong top end percussive element, because you want to make sure that your kick, first of all, punches through the mix enough, and also make sure that your kick is represented if someone's listening on speakers that may not have the representation in the low end, like for instance on a phone. So when I did that using Kick 2, I'll go ahead and open up Kick 2 and show you how I isolated just that, just like a top click. I think I must have already just flattened that one because I knew that I wasn't going to change anything. I'm just going to go ahead and make a new MIDI track and show you guys what I did for an example. So I have Kick 2 here. I'm going to open it up, and this is such an amazing plugin because it allows like very fine-tuning details to really get the type of kick sound that you want. So I actually do like building my kicks using Kick 2 quite frequently, but for this time I only actually use the top click, and there's a bunch of different presets in here that you can choose which top click type of sounds you're looking for, and then you can also edit the length of the top click and then the pitch and at the starting point of the sample, and then add a low pass or high pass filter onto it. So you can really fine tune the way you want your top click to sound. So I'm just going to go ahead and just play a note just so you can hear what I did. You can hear that there's a top click element, and then there's also a low end. And what I do just to take out the click, I basically cut the low end completely right here, and then I also throw an EQ8 over top. Basically just cut out all the low end. So what's left is just the top click, which is what I'm looking to use. So that's really all that's to it. That's kind of what I did. That's not the exact sample that I used to create the top click for this track, but that's just an example of how I did it. At that point, then you just right click freeze track, and then flatten it, right click flatten. So now you'll see I have a wave sample to work with, and this one obviously the click on that was a little bit tighter than the one I had used for the track, but nonetheless that's my process when I isolated out the click, and it really does change the dynamics of the kick, because here I'll play the kick by itself without the click. And then now here's me adding it in. So then once I had the kick sounding like I wanted it to, and I arranged it appropriately in the track, I wanted to incorporate a sense of call and response type of bass. So I used this bass sample here. This is the bass just soloed on its own. And on the bass I actually have quite a lot of things going on. I have an EQ8 down here, which I have basically all the highs cutting out of the sample. So right now it's just basically a sub bass. So then I use this really cool plugin called JJP Bass by Waves Audio, and what it is doing is it's just kind of highlighting certain aspects of the sound that I really wanted to bring out, because I already cut pretty much all the mids and the highs out. So I am gonna start adding some sounds back in by using this plugin. I'm gonna turn this plugin off so you can hear the difference. That was without it, and then so I'm adding, like, it almost sounds like a little bit more distorted and a little bit crunchier, right? And that was something that I was looking for in the sound. And then I have it compressed. I have a couple different sidechain compressors going on to just sounds that I think that would conflict and or mask the bass sound when they come in. So any sound that really had any heavy bass tones, I went ahead and just sidechain the bass to those sounds so that when they do hit, the bass lets off a little bit to allow space for that sound to come in, right? So I have it sidechaining with the dark hits, the kick, pretty much anything with bass elements. So then I have a plugin over here called Kickstart by Nikki Romero. It's one of my most frequently used plugins. It's basically acting like a sidechain. It doesn't have to be related to any other. The sidechain in the basic compressor in Ableton, I have to map it to like a certain sound in order to get the pumping effect. But this, it just does it on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so you can hear the bass sample without Kickstart. So you can hear that it's actually a really muddy sound. And once I throw Kickstart on top, it cleans it up and allows way more space. And it also allows the kick to have that call and response relationship with the bass. And you know, I do have Kickstart also on the main kick group. So you can see that for the kick, I have the opposite pattern so that way the kick hits in one section and then the bass hits in the other, right? And what this is going to do is just going to open up some space at the end for the bass to come in. So even though it's subtle, it's important for the overall clarity of the sounds in the total track, especially in the mixdown. So then at the end, I use this really cool plugin called Track Spacer by Waves Audio. And what this is going to do is build a direct relationship between the kick and the bass and allow them to really glue together. So what I did to send the information from the kick to Track Spacer on the bass is I just duplicated the kick group here, renamed it called Kick Send, and then I routed it to the bass 12 audio, and then here, right? And then I sent that to the Track Spacer sidechain. So now this kick send is just going directly into the Track Spacer. So now when I solo it, all you're going to really hear is the bass relationship. And then so now going back into Track Spacer, what I did is basically the only real muddiness that's going to be a real problem area for most bass and kick relationships is the low end, like anything under 200 hertz, give or take. And so what I did is I just moved the high cut down to about 200 hertz. That way, when anything that's below that level comes in from the kick, it's going to drop out some of those frequencies from the bass and allow the bass and the kick to kind of breathe together, right? So I'm gonna play it for you guys so you can see what's going on. The top blue line is the information from the kick send into the bass Track Spacer. So when you hear them together now, and you can see the bottom line is the bass frequencies getting cut a little bit just to allow a little bit more space for the kick to hit. And then the two sounds sound way more glued together. You can adjust the amount or the relationship between the kick and the bass relative to your taste. Here I have it around 26%, but it's always dependent on how it sounds to you. So together, everything So that's what I did to build a kick and bass relationships in this track, Is This the Ending, featuring Tori Letzler. I think that you guys can see that the kick and bass are calling and responding to each other and allowing enough space in the mix and allowing them not to mask each other, right? So you can really hear the bass and the kick punch through in the mix.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.